Hi folks, I'm Gary Dunshee, and in this month's Tack Tip I want to talk a little bit about setting rivets. We've got several different kinds of rivets that we use here at the saddle shop, and there's several different kind of tools for setting those rivets, and thought we might just go through some of that and give you a better idea how you maybe can patch some stuff there at the ranch, or help you sometime when you're in a jackpot, something broke, you'll be able to set a rivet and get you by it, or you can get it fixed right. The most common rivet used in repairing or building new or patching, things like that, is the copper rivet and burr. And this is a copper rivet. That's the burr. It's just like a little washer that goes over it. And that's a real good product. We use it a lot here at the shop whenever we're building things. This is probably what the rigging in your saddle is put on with, are these copper rivets and burrs. They come in several different sizes. This number 9 is the most common. That's kind of the general all-around size that works for most everything. We use some number 8s, some number 12s, some number 14s as well, but just for repair and general ranch use, probably that number 9 is fine. The next one is a splash rivet. This is called a machine rivet or a splash rivet, and they come either in solid brass or stainless steel. That's the two ways you want to use them. You used to could get them in copper, but not anymore. And what you want to stay away from, a lot of them, most of them in fact, are brass plated. They're brass plated steel. You don't want that. The reason you don't want it is because the brass plating comes off whenever you set it, and then it just rusts. So, and when it rusts, it'll rot your leather. So you want to be sure if you get these, you're getting solid brass or stainless steel. The next one is the Jiffy Rivet, and the Jiffy Rivet's in 2 pieces, where the machine rivet's in 1 piece. And the Jiffy Rivet goes together like this, and we'll set some of all these here in a minute, so you can see how we go about setting them. But anyhow, Jiffy Rivet goes together like that. The Jiffy Rivet and the splash rivet are used where you don't need as big and heavy a duty rivet as the copper rivet and burr. These are for lighter materials, and maybe whenever you do want something to turn loose, maybe at some point in time you might use some of these, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Right now I'm going to go ahead and set a copper rivet and burr, and you start, I've already punched the hole for this. We're going to put 2 pieces of leather together here, rivet them together, and some of the considerations when you're doing that is what's going to be next to your horse or what's going to be next to you. The burr, which is on the top side, needs to be away from your horse, needs to be away from you, because the burr is a little rough. The smooth side, the bottom of the rivet, is smooth, and so you want it next to either the horse, if you're fixing a headstall, something like that, or if you're fixing a pair of leggings, you want the smooth part next to you. You don't want that old burr rubbing against you. There's a couple of different kinds of tools that you can use to set these copper rivets and burrs. This is my personal favorite right here. It's a 3-piece set. Bob Douglas up in Sheridan, Wyoming makes these. Douglas Tools. You can Google him, and they're really, really nice. You've got the first one to set the burr, and the second one to dome it, and the third one is to round the head of the rivet. And let's go through that right now, and I'll show you how it's done. The first one we use, the one with the hole in it, that's going to set the burr. Got a rivet stuck through the hole. Put a burr on it. Get your hammer. Just shower down on it. I like to use this granite. This is 4-inch thick granite. It's really solid, works real good. Try and keep it over the corner of my bench. I don't like to use it off out in the middle where there's nothing solid underneath it. You can use your shoeing anvil, You can use a lot of things. We've got these little bitty anvils that we can get into tight places with. They work real good too. But you set your burr like that, and whenever you beat it down, you beat on it a little extra heavy, and that kind of countersinks the bottom part of it, and that's a good thing. And then when you're cutting it off, you go just put your nippers or pliers or whatever you got, just put it all the way down like you're just going to cut it all off, and then come up just a hair, and then cut that off, and you can see how it leaves just a little bit sticking up, and that's sharp like a razor. It'll cut right now. You gotta finish it off. Whenever you set it, the first lick with your hammer should be straight down. That just ensures that the burr's not going to fly off, because it can come off if you don't get it set on there. And then whenever I'm setting this, I like to kind of dome it, go in a circle at an angle, and that kind of rounds out that head. That makes it pretty nice. And the second tool that Bob makes, or the number 2, it's got 2 rings around it. The first one, where'd it go? Anyhow, first one has 1 ring around it. The second one has 2 rings. That's the way you use them, 1, 2, and 3. So number 2 is just domed a little bit. You put it over the burr, give it a good whack, and it's just as smooth and rounded as it can be. It's got a bump there, so you don't want that towards the horse. You don't want it towards the rider. But it's a nice smooth bump. It won't cut you or anything, and as long as it's to the outside, we're good. Okay, now like if you're setting the rivets in a saddle or something and you want it to look real nice, or you want to countersink these edges here, tool number 3 has the 3 rings, and get the right one. Tool number 3 has the 3 rings, and it's a domer, and you just center it right over the bottom of the rivet, give it a whack, and it rounds it. Really, really nice. And that's real important on the riggings on saddles, because like on a flat plate or an inskirt rigging, the stirrup leather is constantly wearing over that rivet. And I've seen saddles where the rivets were just set flat like that, and it will wear the rivets away real fast if they're not domed. If they're domed, they'll probably last twice as long as the flat ones there. Okay, I'm going to show you one other thing that you can do if you don't have the rivet setter or anything at all like that. The copper rivets and burrs. Just stick that through there, put that on there, grab your pliers, whatever you've got that you can put around that, give it a whack, take your shoeing nippers, whatever you need to, cut it off again, and then hammer it down. And try and go in that round circle like that if you can. But if that's all you've got, you can make do with that, and it'll hold real good. Always feel of it whenever you get done, and if there's sharp edges, just keep trying to dome it out like that. That really helps. Okay, let's punch another hole and go to the splash rivet. The splash rivets are, this is a little solid brass one. It's got a flat bottom like the copper rivet and burr, but it's hollow on the inside. Okay, to start the splash rivet, we're going to use just a punch, and we're just going to widen the rivet out. And then the tool you need for that is this little splash tool, and you can buy that at almost any leather supply. I think these came from the leather factory, but it's just a little splash tool, and it's got a little point there in the middle, and you just stick that right over that. Get your hammer, just kind of tap it down, make sure it's splashing out straight there. It's actually splitting the rivet. Okay, now take a look at it. Kind of looks like a little asterisk or star or something like that. It just splashed over the leather in place of the burr on the copper rivet and burr. All right, now once you've done that, then you come back with your hammer and hammer it, and that makes it real smooth and flat. And it's indented on the bottom, it's indented on the top. It doesn't matter which side's next to the horse, which side's next to the rider, it's not going to rub you. They're not as stout as the copper rivets and burrs, but they have their place, like on spur leathers. I don't like to use copper rivets and burrs on spur leathers. These splash rivets, they'll hold under normal conditions. They'll hold anything you're doing. Everything's great. If they get jerked on a lot or a heavy weight put on them, they will come undone. And I've known several people that have been hung up to a horse, or a friend of mine, horse fell with him in a rough canyon in New Mexico, and he hung up to the horse by a spur, and after they went over about 3 times, the splash rivet pulled loose, and that was the only way he got away from it. So it's kind of a good deal. I just don't recommend the copper rivets and burrs at all on spur leathers. I do like the splash rivets. Okay, the next rivet we're going to do here is the Jiffy Rivet. And like I was telling you earlier, they're more for thinner leather. And just for demonstration purposes here, I'm going to go through 1 thickness of leather. But they're like for putting 2 thicknesses of leather together that's thinner type leather. And they're not for heavy duty use. We don't use them on tack at all. But they just fit together. And once you get them fit together, all you gotta do is hammer them down. They hold pretty good. They don't hold as good as the splash rivet, and not anywhere near as well as a copper rivet and burr. But if you're just fixing a little light strap or something that doesn't have any pressure on it, man, it is a handy way to get by and to make it work. I hope some of what we've showed you here today will help you out. A lot of you guys already know all that stuff, but anyhow, maybe it'll get you out of a jackpot sometime and help you where you can do another day's work the next day. If we can ever help you with anything here at Big Ben Saddlery, whether it's setting rivets or whatever, just give us a call if you have questions or need to know anything that we might have a little info on. Just give us a call. Thanks for watching.